My name is Pharlone Toussaint, and I am the Director of External Relations at the Center for Healing and Justice Through Sport. I am super excited to be sitting here with our partners at Players Coalition. I'll let them introduce themselves.
How we doing? My name is Trimaine Davis. I am the voice and as well as the education expert for Players Coalition.
Awesome, and my name is Tori, Holloway. I'm a part of the management team for the Players Coalition, and we're excited to be here having this conversation with you.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank y'all so much. I want to start with just like speaking a little bit about the partnership, because I feel like people, you know, you all do such a great job of creating platforms for organizations who are doing incredible work to speak on their work. But I think it's really important for people to know the labor and the folks behind the scenes who are making sure that the right organizations and the right partners come to Players Coalition. Could you talk a little bit more about what Players Coalition is? Like, what's your mission? Why do you do this?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Players Coalition was founded to amplify the athlete voice. So our founders know the impact that athletes' voices have. And so as they got passionate about issues, it's how can we elevate these by using our platform. And so the Players Coalition's 4 pillar areas are criminal justice reform, education, police community relations, and economic advancement. So our goal is to partner with organizations like your own to say, hey, you're doing the work. You are an expert in the work. How can we use Player Platform to amplify the work you're already doing?
Tell me, you know, what role do you think sport has to play in equality, in equity, in justice? I think sometimes people kind of cast us off as like the stepchild, you know, like, you know, but you clearly know, because you work at the intersection of sport and impact, that sport has a role to play in, you know, supporting social justice movements and equity work.
Yeah. Well, for me, I think it's very important to understand that as we talk about movements and civil rights, sports has always been there. There's never been a time where there's been a movement or a measure to help us get to where we need to be, where sports didn't play a pivotal moment in that. As we're talking about this, I can't help but to think about the 1968 Olympics, you know, and Dr. Tommy Smith and Dr. John Carlos. But then even goes back even further from that as well, whether we're talking about Jesse Owens or even small achievements too. Are we thinking about like Wilma Rudolph and her achievements, or Arthur Ashe? So there's always been a political and social movement in sports to allow us to see where we are in society. And if we're really thinking about it too, sports is nothing more but a small microcosm of what's really going on in society. So of course there is a role and responsibility for sports to be involved.
Yeah. I think, you know, as you all embark on this journey of really trying to tackle systems change, you know, what role do you see Players Coalition in? You know, because lots of folks are talking about systems change these days. What role are you all playing to be, you know, advocates in systems change?
Yeah, I think one, it's trying to show and shine a light on. For a long time, people have been operating in silos.
Yes.
And that's only gonna get you so far. And so I think the Players Coalition really has the mission to say, hey, you're doing this type of work. You're doing this type of work. We all have the same goal. What does that look like for us to come together? It's really how our partnership started. Right. It's like, we wanna be a part of the system change. We know what you're doing, like, let us help and do that. So I think that's one of the biggest areas that PC really says, like, okay, how can we pull people together, different partners, different organizations, grassroots groups that are doing it across the country. And even too, like, hey, this is how this group did it. Yeah. And you can emulate that. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely, get to solutions faster.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You know, so as we're talking about systems change in general, I want to get even more specific. I don't think that people recognize that there are issues specifically in youth sports. And, you know, it's funny, I always say, like, the players and the leagues, they all, like, get us. They all, like, vibe with us, but they're not funding youth sports. I don't want to put anybody on blast, but, like, the leagues are not funding youth sports directly, because they think that sport is a luxury. They think that sport is something that you earn, you know? And very similar to your work in water as a human right, we believe that play is a human right. And to us, that if you don't have access to play, then you don't have your full dignity. You don't have the opportunity to develop as a whole human being if you don't have access to play.
Yes.
And so seeing different movements and different folks who, you want to do recidivism, you want to do juvenile justice, do it in your own home.
Right.
You work in sport.
Right.
Why not do that from home?
Yes.
We're using sport as a tool for violence prevention.
Right.
We're using sport as a tool for learning loss.
Yes.
We're using sport as a tool for mentorship.
Yes.
And we have the brain science to prove that it's effective.
Right.
Why do you think people don't see that there is something going on in youth sports that needs help fixing?
Yes. I think that goes along too with how can we help amplify that particular message of what you just said? Because I think the more that we amplify that voice, the more that we call people to action. I think we all, well, at least for me, being a former student athlete, growing up as a youth, sport plays such a pivotal role in so much of life transitions. Also safety. And from a safety standpoint of, yes, I'm playing this sport, so I got somewhere to go, but also from my community of knowing that I played a sport and rallying behind me playing that sport and saying, we're gonna make sure that you are okay. Nah, you can't hang out over here today. Don't you got practice today? What you doing over here? So just that kind of community advocacy really helped traject where I was gonna go and where I landed. So I think that's another aspect too of how we can get the community involved as well, is having more of a village approach, because that really impacts everything. And I think about that all the time of where I'm at now and where I started and how much sports had so much to play with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think the leagues are not funding youth sport? Why don't they think that it's worth an investment in funding that youth sports program in that neighborhood?
I think the conversation has to be shifted, just like what you said earlier, is we have to be in the prevention space.
Yep.
We have to start thinking about prevention. And Players Coalition works with phenomenal partners who are saying, if you want to work in community violence intervention and prevention, you have to look at sports.
Yeah.
And so I really think we have to start shifting that narrative, and we don't stop saying it.
Right.
We say it over and over. We tell it to the teams, we tell it to the leagues, we tell it to our partners of sport is not only, it's a right. Everyone should have the right to play in a safe space. Everyone should have the right to safety.
Yes.
And also that sports and play is an effort of prevention.
Yes,
and so
it
if
is.
we can just start having that conversation and keep having it, so then people can't connect prevention without sport, then they won't have a choice.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I love that. It makes us undeniable.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think, I am a futurist. I love talking about the future because I believe that we can work backwards from the vision we want to see. Tell me what you hope the future of sport looks like. As y'all embark on this journey as leaders in systems change, how do you hope Players Coalition will use their platform to change the future of sport?
Yeah. You talk about, being someone that's looking towards the future, but then working back from it. It's Black History Month. I can't help but to be reminded of the proverb of Sam Kofa and what it means. In order to know where you're going, you must first know where you've been. So thinking about it from that standpoint, there is a lot of work in advocacy that I see Players Coalition growing. I think about, as it started off as maybe at one point looking at it from just a professional football lens. And then you think about all the other professional sports that's now involved in this. It's going to get to a point, what I see in the future is that this work becomes simultaneous to what it means to be an athlete. So therefore, it's not necessary that you stand out because you're using your platform to speak on issues. That is the requirement.
Yes.
That's the measurement.
Expectation.
That's where the bar starts.
minimum.
Right. So that's where I see Players Coalition having such an impact and continuing that support.
That's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. I agree. I think too, there's a world where when you, as a part of your onboarding to a team and organization, in that same thing, Trimaine, it's, and here's here's an immediate way for you to get involved.
Yeah.
So we're seen as a resource.
Yeah.
We're seen as an aid to what you're already doing, because like, we see athletes all over, not just the NFL, but in other sports realms, who want to be a part of this work, but to be a part of helping them do that in an effective and an efficient way, and in a safe way. You know, so I definitely see it going there, but agree, it's a requirement. Like, it won't just be the one or two people that, oh yeah, they speak out.
Right.
No, it'll be the norm.
Yeah.
That's
I love
great.
that.
Yeah.
I love that. I see a beautiful future in that, because for us, you know, we recognize that sport is an equalizer. It's a tool that can be used if done correctly, if done in a healing-centered way, that can change schools, neighborhoods, communities, cities, nations.
Yes.
If we intentionally use sport to do the amazing things that we know through brain science it does.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
But right now, things are not looking good.
Yeah.
You know, if we continue on the path that we're headed on and let sport become a more privatized and more segregated space where the haves can play, but the have-nots cannot, you know, I think if we don't recognize that we are currently in a public health crisis where 70% of young people stop playing at 13. At 13 years old. So if we don't recognize that that's an issue at minimum, think about all the other cascading issues that come with that. We're talking about diabetes. We're talking about, you know,
hypertension.
We're talking about generational issues that we're just ignoring because we think that, like, folks need to spend more time in school.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking school, but when we take play out of school, then what we're doing is saying we don't care about our children. Right? We don't care about the full health and well-being of our young people. You know? Tell us, you know, how you hope that this partnership in particular can support the mission of Players Coalition. You know, you all have done a great job of creating advocacy. You all are at Capitol Hill. You all are, you know, supporting organizations that are doing incredibly impactful work. How do you hope that the Center for Healing and Justice Through Sport and Players Coalition make systems change?
I think one, awareness, right? So like when you can get people speaking your language, like this, treating sport like it is a right, you know, because I think a lot of people sometimes don't even know that it's an issue. So I hope that the Players Coalition in this partnership can bring to light a lot of the inequities.
There's a problem.
Yes.
Because folks don't even believe that there's a problem. They're like, I'm totally okay with paying $10,000 for my young person to play. And they're like, you know?
How do we get here? How do we get here? You hear horror stories of families like taking out additional loans so that their child can have an opportunity to play. And it should not be like that. Yeah, and going back to your earlier point about, for me as an educator, I do believe that sports is a part of education. There is no way that you can tell me that academia does not have a place in sport. You think about from a professional lens of how massive a playbook is for a football team. There is a lot of process and intellect that's going on to make sure that you know what the cover 2 is or the audible that's getting ready to happen. And so I think there's a way where we can highlight and bridge that together. If you ever hear the greats talk about what helped them become great, they always talk about their love for being a student of the game. Right? So how do we then impact that aspect into the overall sport? And I think, too, looking into, as you talk about that number, what's going on when we get to 13? Right? So it's already like this funnel that's starting to happen as we start to become...
What's happening is it's too competitive. Coaches are... you know, they're abusing their authority.
Yes, they are.
Or they're not trained. They don't have the right tools to understand their responsibility in coaching, right? Like, I have a good heart. I want to help the community out, so I'm going to coach, but I'm going to coach the way I was coached. And unfortunately, the way you were coached was full of things that might be harmful. They were harmful back then, but they're especially harmful now after a pandemic, after, you know, George Floyd. There are lots of things that we've learned are harmful harmful, and we've got to do things differently.
Yes, indeed.
You know?
Yes, indeed.
But I love that as an educator, you affirm that. Because I think we've talked to superintendents who are like, we don't have time for play. One of our coalitions and our Coalitions for Sport Equity has worked on a recess bill so that young people have the right to play at school, so they have the right for recess.
Yeah.
That is the current state of affairs.
Yeah, that's where we are.
I don't think folks understand.
Right.
So to your point, working together to like raise awareness that there is a problem, but that there is a solution.
Yes, there is.
And through collaboration, through stopping these silos, you know, working together across issue-focused areas, you know, because to us, there is no social change, there is no economic change, there is no personal change without healing first.
Absolutely.
Healing has to be the baseline. And how do we heal? Movement, connection, right?
Absolutely. And you hear so many professional athletes, student athletes talk about how sport was their therapy. You know, I went through this traumatic experience, and had it not been for the court, had it not been for the field, I don't know how I've been able to get over or cope with or find healing techniques to help me get through that. So to your point, this language and the examples are already there. I think with Players Coalition, the work that we're doing collaboratively, it helps us like amplify that and highlight the importance of that.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And I'm just so grateful for the partnership. We are excited about changing the future of youth sports with you.
Let's do it.
Yes, nothing heals like sport.
Yes,
nothing heals like sport. There it is.
So good. Wow.